November is Native American Heritage Month, and so today I'm going to be interviewing Agnes Woodward, who is an Indigenous dressmaker and a ribbon skirt maker. I do want to give a little bit of a content warning. We're going to be discussing residential schools and some of the themes that accompany residential schools. For that reason, if this is a very sensitive topic for you, or if it is upsetting, I would not recommend watching this video. Without further ado, let's jump into the interview. Thank you so much for being on the channel and for sharing your experience of what it's like to be an Indigenous dressmaker. Could you maybe just tell us all who you are and what you do?
My name is Agnes Woodward. I am Nehia Esquao, which means Plains Cree, from Treaty 4 territory. I'm an enrolled member of Kwakatu's First Nations. That is located in Saskatchewan, Canada. That's where I was born and raised for the majority of my life. I currently live on Fort Berthold Reservation, which is where my husband and children are enrolled citizens. My husband is a ReeCreeations, and Fort Berthold is home to the 3 affiliated tribes of the Mandan, Hidatsa, and ReeCreeations people. So I've been here for the majority of the last 16 years. This has been my home for quite some time now. So I own ReeCreeations, which is a business me and my husband started in 2017. I have been making ribbon skirts mostly for the last 10 years, but not as much as I have for the last 4 years. Originally, I started sewing just to make myself and my children, some traditional clothing that we would need for ceremonies and things like that. The more that I was sewing, the more my skills, were improving and people were wanting to order from me, and it just turned into a business. The high demand is for the applique work that I put on the ribbon skirts, which can represent anything. For me, it's a really meaningful, opportunity to share a lot about myself. And it's a big responsibility when people have specific things that they want interpreted into a applique design. It's a lot of pressure, but it's really meaningful work. And it's something that I'm really grateful to be doing today.
Yeah, your work is absolutely beautiful. I love it so much. I was on Instagram scrolling through it and looking at all the beautiful designs.
Thank you. Within this past year, there has been a lot in the news about remains being found in unmarked graves around, old residential schools and things like that in Canada. Since then, the color orange has been widely promoted for people to wear in honor of the children who never made it home, in remembrance of them, but also in honor of residential and boarding school survivors today that, are still with us. Comes from the story of a residential school survivor who talked about her experience with her first day of school, buying a nice orange shirt, and she was really excited to own. Back then it was really rare for her family to be able to afford nice things like that. And so she put on her orange shirt, and when she got to school, it was immediately taken from her and she never saw it again. And she talked about, the difficult experiences that she and many other Indigenous children had in residential school. I have really advocated for Orange Shirt Day for the last 7 years. My family's taken part, and it's not just because I'm Indigenous, but it's also because my dad is a survivor of residential school. He was taken when he was 7 years old. For a lot of my childhood, I didn't really get to spend a lot of time with my dad. And I used to feel a lot of anger towards him. I used to struggle with, abandonment issues and emotions that were really hard to process and to understand. And it wasn't until, I was a young adult, young married mother. I had 3 children at the time, and my dad came to visit, and my husband was always telling me, if you want to know, why your dad wasn't there or why he did certain things, just ask him. It took a lot of courage for me, but I did ask him, and he started telling me about his childhood and what it was like for him in residential school. This past year, with Orange Shirt Day kind of really blowing up and people all over the world taking part, organizing, wanting to buy orange shirts from Indigenous people, I knew that the responsible thing to do is to donate to organizations that work with residential school survivors. But when I think about my dad, I know that financially he has a difficult time. I know that he's never really had his own home. He's just kind of travels a lot. A lot of his choices to not accept the money that the government of Canada gave to residential school survivors stems from his own experiences and how difficult that was. So financially, I know that he would never benefit from any organization that works with residential school survivors. So I designed a shirt with my father, and all of the funds that were raised from Orange Shirt went directly to him. I've made connections with other organizations that know my father's story and wanted to help. And so we began recording last week his stories, and he calls it From Paradise to Prison. He wanted to talk about what his life was like prior to residential school, how beautiful it was, everything that, he learned from his parents, from his mother, and from his grandparents, and then what it was like the day he was taken. He wants to tell his story. By doing that, he's not only being compensated from this organization, we are also starting something that we call the Lester Howse Foundation, which is my father's name, Lester Howse. Through that foundation, we're going to continuously raise funds to buy him either a tiny home, a custom tiny home, or like an RV, something that he can continue to travel in, but also always have a place of his own. This opportunity to get him a home, that will last and that he doesn't have to pour a bunch of money into is really, really awesome. And just, I'm so grateful, for that help. And after we get my father into a home, we are going to continue the funds to help house other Indigenous residential school survivors who are experiencing homelessness, who are struggling. We're going to focus within the state of Alberta, just because that's where my dad's from. And my good friend who's part of this organization, she's also from there, and she knows that there is a lot of, residential school survivors that struggle, and children of residential school survivors.
Thank you so much for sharing about your father and his story and everything. I think it's so important that people are aware of what actually happened with residential schools, because it's really only recently, I think, that there have been big conversations about this, and it's absolutely tragic. It feels like such a horrific thing that happened to so many people, and we still have so little being done, I feel like, about it.
I feel like a lot of survivors are going to start stepping forward, even more so than we've already had. Sometimes people who've been through such traumatic things, sometimes they just need to be heard, and understood. And I think listening to these stories is one of the best ways to really understand Indigenous people, not just in Canada, but in the US too. Because, there's the boarding schools here, which were not exactly the same, but same policies, same purpose.
Why do you think it's important that Indigenous dressmaking practices are continued and are passed down to future generations?
I believe that it's important because a lot of things have been, I don't want to say lost, but not passed on because of assimilation policies. A lot of our practices were at one time forbidden, were not allowed. And just like the conversation with residential schools, the purpose was to intervene with our way of life through our children, which is our future. And making ribbon skirts, making dresses, even making regalia for powwows is a way that allows us to take all of those teachings back, to take those practices back, and to hand that on to our children. It keeps a sense of identity. It is a form of fashion that belongs to us. It is a form of artwork that also belongs to our people. And being able to pass that on is just another way for us to really empower our youth, empower our future generations, and stay true to our teachings, that really come with different protocol, especially for wearing things for ceremony. Those things are really important to our people. And I believe that it will continue to help us feel connected to ourselves as Indigenous people. And it just carries on all of those teachings to our future generations and strengthens their identity.
And you said that you make a lot of ribbon skirts. So what exactly does the ribbon skirt represent to you? I know, of course, it's passing on the tradition, but they're very specific, and there's a lot of variation with ribbon skirts, but I feel like there has to be a deeper symbolism to it. So what does that symbolize for you?
So I just want to share that as a child, I had to wear long skirts to ceremonies. With my aunt, who had a big hand in raising me, and my dad, it was really strict. That wasn't just ceremonies. I had to wear them to powwows. I had to wear them to family dinners, weddings, graduations. And being so young, experiencing racism in Saskatchewan, it really affected my self-esteem. I ended up feeling a lot of shame. So every time I put on a skirt, I would feel so angry. My family jokes about having to wrestle me into a skirt because I refused. I would try to refuse to wear one because I felt like I'm already visibly Indigenous and I'm going to get, picked on and bullied for that. But if I wear anything that makes me more like stand out even more, that I'm just asking for more of the hate. That's really how I felt as a child. And it wasn't until I was a mother and I was at a ceremony and I had my skirt on and I had to run into town to go to a grocery store, and right away I was going to take my skirt off before I went into the grocery store, but my daughters were with me. In that moment I really questioned, like, what am I doing? Am I still ashamed to be Indigenous? No, I'm not. Am I going to teach my daughters to be ashamed? Making the choice to wear ribbon skirts and to constantly make ribbon skirts, it's been very healing for me. And it's been a way for me to take back that shame. We have a right to express ourselves and to wear our ribbon skirts, to make a statement, to empower ourselves wherever we are. It doesn't matter what space we walk into, whether that's a celebration, whether it's a ceremony, whether we're on a stage, graduating, whatever space we're in, we have every right to identify how we choose, to express ourselves how we choose. Ribbon skirts, really, a lot of them carry stories. There's just so many different meanings behind each ribbon skirt that I make. But for me, it's been about taking back that shame. It's been about empowering myself to show my daughters that they don't ever have to be ashamed for who they are, and to, demand the attention in the space that they hold in a way that, helps other Indigenous people that may not feel that much, that amount of pride like I lacked at one time. I've also heard of stories from an elder, not personally, but just through videos that I've seen shared about ribbon skirt teachings. And they say that the shape, because they are cut like an A-line, that it's the shape of a teepee, which represents our home, a very sacred place. So many things take place within our home, the love, the growth, the teachings. I heard an elder say that when we walk the earth and our dresses touch the medicines of the earth, Mother Earth recognizes who we are and hears our prayers and things like that. And that's how Mother Earth honors us, as well as by the length of our skirts. For Cree people, they symbolize, the sacredness of Indigenous women. They symbolize the stories of survival. They symbolize resilience. Today, symbolize our adaptation, because some of them are very contemporary designs compared to 50 years ago, 100 years ago. They are contemporary designs that are inspired by the style from, the late 18th century. It's just a style of clothing that will continue to evolve for us. It'll continue to change. And I believe that however we make it, you can call that traditional. You can call that, our ways, even if it's not how it was done 150 years ago. How it's done today, it's ours. And however we express that, it's still Indigenous, it's still traditional. It's going to be part of our traditions. And, those things always evolve.
So I read some articles about you online before this interview, as one does. And I learned about the incredible ribbon skirt that you made for the swearing in of Deb Haaland, who is the United States Secretary of the Interior. What was that experience like for you? And, how did it feel knowing that your art was going to be presented to such a wide audience?
Well, at first it felt like it wasn't real. I never said anything to anybody as I made it. I mean, maybe like a handful of people, like my husband, some of my closest friends, and my mom. I mean, that was it. Again, I didn't believe that it was real. I was like, I'll wait until I actually see it on her to believe it. And then the day came. I just opened my, social media, and I seen a video of her with the skirt on while she's lacing up her moccasins. I felt like everything in my body just dropped. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's wearing the skirt, and I just wanted to jump up and down and scream, like, is this real? I was so excited. To be honest, it was very nerve-wracking. I feel like every artist goes through this, just a level of doubt. You always are your worst critic. You look at everything that you make and you see all the ways that you could have done it better, all the imperfections. And so I was nervous when I made her skirt, and I was nervous when I sent it off. I think part of me not believing it was doubting my own skill. It was a fear that she's going to see this and it's not going to be up to her, expectations, and she's not going to wear it. And I think that comes from a lot of difficult experiences that I had, growing up. That moment when I saw her in that skirt, all of that fear, all of that doubt just disappeared, and I felt so honored, so proud. I was just really proud that this is going to be a very historic moment. Making a statement like that at her swearing in, to be a part of that, like that's exactly why I do what I do and why I talk about ribbon skirts the way that I do. When it was shared, I kind of knew that all the Indigenous people, all the Indigenous outlets are going to be like, who made her skirt? What I did not expect was beyond the Indigenous community for people to be like, who made her skirt? What does this mean? Who do we talk to? I didn't expect that. I was just really proud to be a part of that moment and to not only have the opportunity to share about ribbon skirts, but really to talk about what it's like as an Indigenous person, with my lived experiences and why I make the ribbon skirts that I do today. A moment that I'm going to forever be proud of. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, as you should be. That's such an incredible accomplishment. I can only imagine how it must have felt for you. So, what are some of the challenges that you have faced as an Indigenous dressmaker?
Challenges today, I don't think are negative ones. I think the challenges that I face they're like blessings, right? So one of the challenges is staying true to my style, but also trying to stay original as to not copy any other ribbon skirt designer. And the reason that's a blessing is because there's so many ribbon skirt makers today. There's so many people, starting their own, online businesses, starting their own pages where they're just showing or sharing what they're making. I just stay true to my own way of expressing, the colors and the way that I see them, where I draw inspiration. Sometimes I look at swatches for weddings, how they have different colors that you wouldn't think go together, but actually look really well together. And so, I get inspiration from everywhere. I would walk in a store in the fall time and you see, the mustard yellow and the burgundy and, mix those colors. There's inspiration all around us. Another challenge is meeting the demand. And I mean, coming from, a childhood where you don't see that very often, women wearing long skirts, and unless you're going to a ceremony, then it is pretty much protocol. But coming into a time where it's a part of our fashion. I mean, there are some Indigenous women who choose to wear a ribbon skirt every single day, and that's a personal choice. There are teachers, Indigenous teachers, who do the same to empower, their students. But the demand is far greater than I'm able to keep up with. I had to go almost a year before I could take another list of orders. And I'm like, okay, I'm only going to take this many. But I get so many messages that and women, when they tell me their story, a lot of times it just touches my heart. And I'm like, okay, I'll add you to my list, and I end up with a longer list than I should probably take on. So that's a challenge, is meeting the demand. That can be really difficult. But luckily, like I said, there's so many ribbon skirt makers now. But in a negative way, I don't have any challenges that I can think of. I get a lot of support. Another thing that I do is I have a missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit design that I made originally to honor my aunt who was murdered. I made it for my mother. And so many people, connected to that design that it was ordered so many times. I made it for 150 MMIW G2S family members in Saskatchewan. And there's so many family members that I understand their pain, I understand their grief, and I understand, what their family has been through, because my family's been through that. And so for a lot of family members, I make them the ribbon skirt free of charge. And so community members often, make donations towards that so that I can continue to gift these ribbon skirts to family family members who have experienced, that violence with their loved one. It allows me to continue to do that. I have not really faced any challenges as an adult. And I think that's, a beautiful statement of today, of where we're at today as Indigenous people. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a plus. That's good,
I'm so happy to hear that, because I think you can feel like there's always so much more work to be done. And there absolutely is. But then also, I guess, recognizing how we have come some way as well. I guess feeling like that's a blessing that kind of empowers us to continue doing the work that needs to be done for those who don't have it as good or who aren't as fortunate, sadly.
Absolutely.
Are there any specific colors that you tend to gravitate towards? Because you said that you like to mix odd colors together that normally wouldn't be combined. But do you have a tendency to gravitate towards certain colors? Or do you find that the Cree people specifically, do you have specific colors that are part of your culture and are part of your traditions?
For a lot of Cree people, from what I know growing up, is that we have our names. Like my name's Agnes Woodward, but when I go into ceremony, I have a name that I use when I pray, and that is Yotinisquel, and that means wind woman. It's a name that we often get in ceremony. It's prior to contact, prior to colonization, we wouldn't have English names. And so these names are really special to us. They're sacred. And for Cree people, when we're given those names, we're also given colors. And those colors we would use in different ways for ceremony. There's a lot of people being Cree that will want those colors put on a ribbon skirt because it's so significant to their name, and carries that deep meaning for them. So there's not any specific color for the tribe, but I know that individuals get colors when they're given their names as well. Colors that I gravitate towards, different colors of like turquoise and like sea foam. I just love turquoise, and I feel like it goes well with almost any color. I wouldn't say every color. I feel like a lot of Indigenous people also gravitate towards like a starburst color, where you'll see the burgundy, red, orange, yellow, different variations of yellows and oranges and reds that could mimic like a sunrise or a sunset or rainbow colors. I know that that's used in not just ribbon work, but also beadwork, paintings, and things like that. And I think that mimicking a sunset or a sunrise is one way that connects people all around the world. It's something that we all see, that we're all affected by, that we all feel good when we see it, whether, the sun's coming up or the sun's going down. That's something that connects people, worldwide.
Yeah, and to Mother Nature too. It's like the ultimate connection, right? So it's like the ring between us and then the ring between nature as well. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Aside from the ribbons, what kind of materials do you generally use with your ribbon skirts and with the things that you make?
For the material of the ribbon skirt, that can really vary. I shop in like the cotton, broadcloth area, but if somebody wants something for like, let's say a fancy event, I might get silk material and, make a ribbon skirt out of silk. There is a style now where ribbon skirt makers will make a ribbon skirt and then they'll put a really beautiful lace overlay over top of the ribbons. That's another fancy style that can be worn anywhere. I've seen it at weddings and graduations and awards and galas and things like that. I have a piece here I can actually share.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's not put together, so it's just the front panel, but you can see it's just a simple, I'm not sure what the blend is. And then here's the colors that I talked about.
Wow.
Turquoise and, different variations of that, like seafoam green, and goes into like a peach, and then those starburst colors that I shared. And so you can see it's, the A-line cut. And then on the front, I have an applique design that I started. And some of these are silk material. Some of them are just plain calico prints. And it's on a white silk backing that I, cut out.
It's beautiful.
And then it's just stitched with a tight zigzag stitch around each piece. If it's for powwow outfits like jingle dresses and things like that, the material can be kind of more fancier material. You can go into like the sports section. You can just really explore any area. I mean, some people even go to where you can buy those big rolls of curtain material or outdoor fabric, and they make their regalia out of that. It's just about creativity. It's about what you prefer.
How did you learn Indigenous dressmaking practices? So were you self-taught, or did you end up taking some classes, or did you learn from relatives?
I am actually self-taught. I started sewing because I wanted my children to dance powwow. I didn't grow up in a powwow circle or anything like that. I didn't grow up learning how to bead or sew or any traditions like that. And so I wanted my children to have more teachings and more connection to culture than I did. And so my husband bought me a sewing machine, and I was like, I have no idea how. It was like just a completely foreign thing to me. So I did have one of his aunts come over and show me just the basics. From there, I just started, trying to learn. And I would go to powwows, and when it came to applique designs, I was so confused. But I would like go up to, outfits, people standing there in their outfits, and like stare really closely, like, how are they doing that? Like, how do they put all these colors together? And so it was really just observing and trial and error with my sewing machine. There was a YouTube channel that started showing how to make powwow regalia, and the ribbon skirts, I feel like you could just look at them and kind of figure out, wow, the ribbon skirts are stacked together and held together with the zigzag stitch. It was pretty simple. But the applique, I learned how to put on powwow outfits, and then I started, putting it on ribbon skirts. It's been a challenge, and being self-taught, coming from like 12 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of videos. There wasn't a whole lot of people making them. So it was difficult to find people to teach me different things.
How can others support Indigenous dressmakers and Indigenous people in general? What would you say are the best ways to support them?
I think the best way to support, Indigenous artists in general is to, on social media, follow them. A lot of them will share what, their art means to them. Ribbon skirt makers will they'll just share their own personal stories. And I think everybody is so unique and important that, following more artists, more dressmakers, ribbon skirt makers, just helps them feel seen, helps them feel heard. The visibility is so important for our people, especially today with, so much happening within our communities that can be difficult. Having a voice in the world is just really important to each of us. And being able to express ourselves like this is a way for us to empower ourselves, and being supported by our community, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, I think is extremely important. I know for a lot of artists and just, Indigenous influencers, they'll often have like a tip jar. And I think it's good to support in that way as well. Many of us create from the heart. We do it at home. It's not a full-time job. And so supporting people who, use their platform to help educate both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, I think it's a great way to support them, is contribute financially, share their work, promote it, on your platforms, just like you are today, which I really appreciate. That's the best way to do it, is just, follow and amplify our voices. And most importantly, don't ever try to speak for us. Invite us to speak for ourselves. That's the most authentic way to support Indigenous people and Indigenous artists.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It was such an honor to have you on this channel and to interview you about your experiences in your life.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. It was really such an honor to be able to interview Agnes and talk to her about her life experiences. If you would like to make a donation through Seeding Serenity, I have put a link in the description box down below. I hope you've enjoyed this interview, and I'll see you all on Thursday for another video.